this chilly morning. We're so excited to work with you on the future steps of your organization. Now, before we begin, I would like to introduce my colleagues, James and Ryan, and I'm Ria, and we are here representing Centurion Consulting. I would also like to draw your attention to the agenda. Please feel free to follow along as we move forward. Now, Mr. Kevin Sparks, last time we had met, you had conveyed that you are presented with a few opportunities and wanted to further discuss and analyze those opportunities. And so we are here today to walk you through and discuss those opportunities and walk you through our final recommendation and what the next steps look like, which leads us to our primary issue at hand. Should Garmont construction further expand in Alberta, and if so, which opportunities should you pursue? Directly stemming from that are some secondary issues, such as the financial statement impact, financing, and another point that we wanted to discuss with you is management in Fort McMurray. And so we will address all these issues as we move along in this presentation. My team and I have conducted an internal and external analysis. Some of the strengths that we have identified that you have achieved excellence through is that you are the biggest distributor for Komatsu in Canada. You are also the largest construction dealer in Ontario. And based on the financial ratios that you have provided with us and upon assessment, you hold a financial strength over the past 5 years. Some areas of improvement, however, that we have recognized is efficiency in network, and what that means is being able to meet your clients' demands, as well as looking into obtaining a senior executive in the Alberta region. Some opportunities that we think that you can tap into to further launch yourself and achieve prosperity is through expansion into Western Canada, as well as strengthening your connections with Komatsu. Some threats that we have identified is the fierce price competition in Alberta, as well as the uncertainty and implications of the changing oil prices. Now, this is, with the fluctuations of the oil prices, this has drastically impacted the housing market, for example, and that in turn affects, for example, the building and construction industry and the demand for your products and equipment. We have also identified decision criteria to sort of rank our ultimate recommendation against. The first being profitability. Regardless of what opportunity that you choose to pursue, you want that strategy to be profitable. And a measurement that we have identified is return on equity. The second point being growth. Growth in terms of growing your organization, but also further expanding in Alberta, as well as whether it would be sustainable, if you're able to sustain your operations, and if it's viable, can you do it? And lastly, strengthening those connections. Right now, you do hold a strong relationship with Komatsu, your largest supplier of the equipment. So maintaining that relationship, but also strengthening those relationships of the clients that you currently hold. I would now like to invite my colleague James to delve deeper into the alternatives.
So there are 3 distinct alternatives that your company can pursue, and I'll discuss them further on. But the first alternative is purchasing a local retail chain within Fort McMurray, and there are 3 options that your company are looking at, and that's Transverse, Caledon, and Vanguard. Within this alternative, you'll be able to build a branded network of rental shops and open up 2 new stores in addition to the already 2 established stores you already have in Fort McMurray. And in terms of the third strategy, you'd be able to, there's also the possibility of looking at the external factor of economic downturn in Alberta and having that as a pivoting factor relating to whether you actually want to exit the Fort McMurray market and sell off the rental shops that you have, the 2 rental shops that you have right now in Fort McMurray. And so we'll look into the first alternative of purchasing a local retail chain and look at a qualitative side to it as well as a quantitative analysis. So looking at the pros and certain points that may deter you from choosing this alternative. So first, within this alternative, you'd be able to expand the network and utilize and leverage the network that you have that the local retail chain already has. They have multiple locations. All 3 options have multiple locations, whether it's 15 or 20 locations within Alberta. Within Fort McMurray and Alberta. So you'll be able to really use this and be able to thrive off this network. In terms of the implementation time, this would be in relation to the second alternative. This would have a shorter implementation time by purchasing this local retail chain, as opposed to putting the time and resources into investing in opening these 2 new stores. However, there are 2 points that may deter you from choosing this alternative, and that this is a very aggressive approach. You have multiple locations that the local retail chain has, and by putting so much time and resources into managing all those local retail retail stores, you'd be spreading your resources very thin. And this is something that's very aggressive, and something that's bold, and something that we really want to emphasize in terms of this alternative. Now, looking at the quantitative side of this alternative, in terms of the valuation, I really want to emphasize that right now, these 3 options, the 3 firms that want to be the options that you have, they're very overvalued. As you can see, based off the valuation, for all 3 options, it's almost double the value of what it is right now. So the asking price of these companies, as you can see, for example, looking at Callan, on the high end of the range of the valuation is at $120 million, and the current, based off the EBITDA multipliers, the current low end valuation of Callan is at $51 million. So this is a very pivoting factor in terms of looking at this alternative, just because of how overvalued these companies are, and this is a large amount of investment upfront just to purchase one of these companies. So this is something to consider. And looking at the second alternative, again, there are pros and there are certain points that we want to address. So looking at the growth for this alternative, in comparison to the first alternative, this is a much more manageable growth. By only opening 2 stores and by setting up a team of 10 people and managing these 2 stores, it'd be a much more steady growth and something that you'd be able to manage and use the resources that you have within your company and be able to reassess in the future. It'll be much more manageable. And also another point in regarding to the advantages of this alternative, what I really want to emphasize is the connection with Komatsu that you have. I really want to emphasize the decision criteria that Ria mentioned of strengthening the relationships, because Komatsu is such an important relationship that you have. By opening these 2 new stores and specializing the product offerings towards Komatsu and catering towards their needs, it would really upgrade that connection and relationship that you have with Komatsu. However, there is one point that may deter you from choosing this alternative, and that is the time and the resource investment within this alternative. As I mentioned before, this would take a longer time to realize that positive profit, likely in the latter half of the 10-year period that you're looking at this alternative at. Now onto the quantitative side of this alternative. So we've done a cash flow analysis over the 10-year period. Just the first 4 columns are the first 4 years, and the 5th column is 2024, so the 10th year. And as you can see, we've considered all the inflows and the cash outflows of this alternative. So we've considered the 2.7% interest of the bank loan that you'd be able to obtain from Komatsu to open up these 2 new stores, as well as the increased sales, and we've calculated the earnings before interest and tax, and also considered the depreciation involved with this alternative. And in terms of the cash outflows, we've also considered the annual investments from year to year. As you can see, it's a positive NPV project of $69 million. So this is, in terms of the financial strength of this alternative, it is very ideal. And in regards to the projections of this alternative, as you can see, we've adjusted the projections that your accounting team has provided and considered all the increase in revenues for this alternative and calculated the income for the first 5 years. As you can see, it's definitely boosted your net income for this Fort McMurray division. Now looking at the decision matrix, we've ranked all 3 alternatives based off of the 3 criteria that Ria mentioned earlier. And something that I want to draw out to your attention is the 3rd strategy of exiting the market. At the current time, we believe that exiting the market isn't within your strategy right now, within your vision, because as I mentioned before, the connection with Komatsu is very important. You want to be able to maintain that connection, maintain that relationship, and be able to build upon that, because it is you are very dependent upon Komatsu. So we believe that exiting the market isn't in part of your strategy right now, mainly because you want to be able to see further growth within your future, within your company, and attain the level of excellence in the future. So the first alternative, we do believe that by purchasing the local retail chain would strengthen the connections. However, it isn't as profitable mainly because of the high purchase price that these companies are asking for. But looking at the second alternative of opening 2 new stores, it would hit all 3 criteria of profitability, growth, and maintaining connections and strengthening those connections. And so right now for today, we are very excited to recommend to you to attain the higher level of excellence and strive for prosperity in the future. We believe that opening 2 new stores in Fort McMurray is the strategic recommendation for you today. And in regards to the financial statement impact, I'd like to invite my colleague Ryan to talk about that.
So a certain element that you wanted to discuss in this particular presentation today is the actually financial statement impact of any of the recommendations going forward. So with the second alternative going forward, here are some of the things to be mindful of. So firstly, the debt and interest would increase with this particular option, along with the assets would also increase as well because you would be acquiring additional inventory, additional assets. In addition to the cost of sales and administrative and sales costs would also increase as well. In terms of financial statement presentation, because this particular alternative would be consolidated operation, it would just be added on to the particular revenue and expense streams in your current financial statement preparation. And in this particular case, because you currently use IFRS in preparation, it would continue forward with that as well. So in terms of financing, the initial investment in the first year is a requirement of $40 million, and Komatsu has so generously agreed to help you with financing. In terms of how much of a loan you can acquire from Komatsu, it's imperative to actually look to see if a combination of to ensure that the debt-to-equity ratio is kept at, consistent with Komatsu's debt-to-equity ratio, which is 1.3. So upon assessment, it would be imperative for you to obtain a loan from Komatsu of $22.6 million, and then additional $17.4 million would be through the issuance of shares. And with our implementation plan today, we've separated into 3 different phases. First, in the immediate, within the first 6 months, short term, within 6 months to 2 years, and then the long term, 2 years going forward. So in the immediate term, in the first 6 months, because we are in August right now, we really would like to start this project as soon as possible, up until the start of next year, is to firstly secure and obtain funding from Komatsu, and also to scout and secure the physical locations that you would actually build these locations at with Fort McMurray, and actually to come up with a project management plan in order to succeed in building that within the first 6 months. And in addition to that, it's also teaming and setting up a team of 10 particular members in order to actually have them go forward with running these 2 particular facilities in Fort McMurray. As Rhea has addressed before in the beginning, there was a lack of a senior executive team in Alberta, so it's a way to mitigate that risk. We would need to form that team of 10 individuals in order to form that function. In addition, as Rhea and James have both mentioned, is also on your mind as well, the fluctuation in oil prices, is important to be proactive about that. So looking at analyst forecasts in order to reassess the position you're in to see if you're financially fit going forward. From 6 months going forward to 2 years, it is imperative to actually execute your operations by actually hiring employees that would actually work at these particular 2 facilities, and also to maintain the facilities as well once they actually are up and running. At this particular point, it's also imperative to reassess your financial position and look at to see, in particular Fort McMurray, your other competitors, to see if there are any benchmark performance indicators to see if you're actually meeting up to expectations of not only your competitors, but also your customer demands as well. And a way to differentiate yourself from your competitors is an opportunity for you to actually improve your quality of service. So looking to see if you can improve the efficiency of your purchase orders to make them more automated for your clientele, and also to really look to see of ways to actually, because these particular locations would be specialized in Komatsu equipment, to really push for that diversification. And in the long term, 2 years going forward, this is in order to look at performance management, to look to see if the customer demand is actually being met in Fort McMurray. As told before, the population of Fort McMurray has been rising in the past decade. And also to see if there's the quality of service that you implement in the short term is actually in need of being reassessed, or is actually meeting the customer demands as well. And going forward in 2 years going forward, once you've established these particular 2 locations, to actually see if you could actually look at the opportunity to diversify your rental offerings. So instead of just construction equipment rental, to see if you could also look into tool rentals, platform rentals, etc., in order to diversify your particular company. And with the risks and mitigations, my team and I have assessed 2 particular risks. The first being the oil price fluctuations, and this is a very pertinent risk that is imperative to look at. And this is important to look at, continue to be proactive in management and looking at different analyst forecasting to see if you're in the position to actually, in a fit position. And also another way to mitigate this is actually diversifying your product offerings. So as I've said before, not only delving into the construction equipment rentals, but also tool rentals, platform rentals. And also with fierce competition in Alberta, this is where you can differentiate yourself by really letting forward that you're a company that stands on the quality of service that you can provide to customers, as well as because of the fact that you're in partnership with Komatsu. Komatsu is known for their innovative technologies and their unique capabilities as well, so really pushing for that uniqueness in those particular 2 facilities for your clients. So in summary, there's been a lot of information being put forth today in this presentation, but just to reiterate, firstly, we strongly recommend that you do go forward with expanding further into Alberta and into Western Canada, especially in Alberta. And by doing so, it would be important to look at actually setting up the 2 new locations in order to not only strengthen your relationship with Komatsu, but also strengthen your relations with the Fort McMurray, the greater Alberta area as well. In addition, it would be imperative for implementation's sake and timeline's sake, this is will be a lengthy process. So in terms of actually assessing your position in terms of the fluctuation in oil prices, to be proactive and actually look to see if, in terms of analyst forecast, to see if you're actually in a fit position going forward with project management. And with that, we strongly believe that with the recommendations that we're putting forth today, that, and we're very excited to be that you've asked us to work with you going forward with the timeline, that you can maintain the level of excellence that your company has achieved for the past 6 decades, and really perspire going forward into the future. And with that, I would like to open the floor up for any questions, and thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the presentation. The question and answer period will now begin.
I have a quick question. Maybe I just need some clarification, but I believe that the investment to open the 2 stores was $40 million. Is that correct?
Correct. In the first
So
year.
$20 million a store. Or we could have spent around 80 to 90 to get 15 stores. And I'm just wondering why the premium on the 2 that we're opening on our own.
What I really want to address with this point is, as I mentioned before, with the 15 stores, by purchasing either 3 of those options, we really want to emphasize that by purchasing one of those companies was a very risky and bold approach. I guess regarding to that premium question, we believe that opening those 2 stores, even though that it's $20 million for each store, it would be more in line with what your current situation is right now. So the economic factors involved with being in Alberta right now is very important to consider. So by having that steadier growth and starting off with just 2 stores was a very important factor in consideration of our recommendation for your company.
Give any consideration where the location of the new stores would be? So one being competitor store locations, and also with the 3 stores that you closed. So any thoughts of where you would locate or consider market research relating to that?
So we had briefly addressed this through our implementation, was to scout out the specific locations, the physical locations of those plants. So just further researching into that, as we do understand that you had recently closed 3 locations, so just doing further research through those first 6 months to find the best location and not cannibalizing any of your equipment. Yes.
A question I have is, with the market the way it is right now and oil prices are depressed, what's the hurry? Should we maybe wait a few years until we look at doing this option? So if this is the option we want to go with, Why do it now, and why not maybe wait a couple years until the oil prices start to look like they're going to come back up?
That's definitely something that we can consider for you. It is a lengthy period of time. It's 10 years for this plan that we've looked and recommended to you. So yes, the oil prices are a very important factor in this. And in terms of opening them up right now, we believe Komatsu's connection and relationship is very important for your company. So by opening those 2 stores right now and being able to build off those 2 stores and expand further later on during the 10-year period in the latter half of that, hopefully once oil prices start to rise up again, this would be the most appropriate recommendation for you at this time.
With opening just 2 new stores over this time period, do you feel that Komatsu's needs as far as expanding into the market are going to be met by that a little sort of slightly lower approach into the market?
So with this particular, great question. So right now, a lot of your clientele is fixated in the Ontario and Quebec region. And there's been tests with, for example, a couple of years ago, there has been a recent closure of 3 particular locations from Komatsu, a previous strategic alliance with Komatsu. In this particular case, with opening 2 new locations and really specializing Komatsu's needs, we firmly believe with the recommendation we're putting forward today with you, will meet the needs of Komatsu's in the Alberta area and also the clientele in that particular area.
And to add to that point, as Ryan mentioned in the implementation plan, we really wanted to focus on differentiating from competitors in that area. So by really focusing on providing a high quality of service for Komatsu and any other clients that you have, you'd be able to focus on something that will differentiate you and make you unique from other competitors.
Okay, I'm going to just quickly ask, do you feel that Garamond has the capacity right now in their current employment situation that they can afford to have 10 people? Do they have 10 qualified people available to send out to Fort McMurray to do the training and the hiring that you're recommending?
It was noted actually that it would be a minimum of information provided for us that there would be enough to actually create a team of 10 individuals that would be able to actually head and facilitate this particular project in Alberta. So right now, with for example, the first option to actually purchase the retail locations, the resources actually in Ontario and Quebec would be spread very, very thin. But with the second recommendation we're putting forward with you, we would see that there is the ability to actually have those 10 individuals or workers actually go to Alberta to actually head this project forward.
And to
Sorry, the question and answer period is now done. You may go.